Thanks, everybody. Great to be here. Not quite as beautiful as Malta, but I'm going to give you about a 15-minute dash into the future of health, medicine, and medtech that hopefully kind of opens your eyes to the art of the possible. I'm going to go fast, talk fast. There'll be a QR code at the end to capture my slides. And I was a little inspired to come to San Jose. I live in the Stanford area. Lots going on. I can make art now. Of course, we're all cheating with ChatGPT. It's much better than it used to be. DALL-E 3 is orders and better than DALL-E 2. Of course, now you can make video on demand with just texting something. It's not always still perfect. Like all these technologies in medtech have challenges at the beginning. Let's see if you can pick up the challenges there. But now, of course, you can ask anything to be illustrated, like a 3D printer on the moon, or I made a special one for MedTech World. Let's see if the sound's on. Oh, turn the sound up for me.
Here.
Anyway,
it's
this is becoming table stakes. The world of AI, of course, is moving quickly, and you can turn anybody into your favorite action hero. If you prefer Lego, there's a Lego version. So that just kind of is the magic of what's possible, right? And GPT, as an example, is the fastest moving technology on the planet. It's already surpassing physicians like me and passing most of the medical boards. It's already at the point where patients don't go to Dr. Google, they go to Dr. GPT. And it's already defeating physicians at kind of doing most of what we used to think we were good at. So the question is going to be, this disruption in AI and beyond is moving so quickly, how do we keep up? Regulators, reimbursement, the culture of medicine isn't necessarily ready for this exponential. Sometimes the future is coming a bit faster than we think. And so even while this technology is exciting, we know there's still some biases and challenges and hallucinations with AI. There's also some other challenges. When you think about how it upskills us, GPT is like an e-bike for your mind, but what happens if your kids never learn how to ride a regular bike or never develop their biking muscles, or a medical student never learns to develop a differential diagnosis without help? Also, this came out last week from MIT Media Lab, your brain on ChatGPT. When you're overusing GPT, you end up with sort of cognitive debt, and you kind of might forget and get dulled in your current abilities. So be careful about these technologies. But like many of you, I'm an optimist. I don't think about generative AI. I think about generative health, how these technologies are now going to make interactions with our healthcare technologies much more personalized to age, culture, personality type, language, healthcare journeys, right? We're all going to have our sort of agentic health that totally matches and meets us where we are, whether it's for our medical device, our app, our digital health, and beyond. And so writ large, the future of medtech, digital health, and medicine is going to get a little more intelligent, hopefully more data-driven, precise, and personalized. And the opportunity is to democratize it around the planet, from rural California to rural Rwanda, and take us from where we are now, kind of intermittent, reactive, one-size-fits-all sick care, to a future that's more continuous, proactive, anytime, anywhere. So a bit of where we hopefully can take it with this amazing community. Now, even though we feel like we're sometimes in the future, it's a bit back to the future. If you ever go and visit Mass General Hospital, where I did my training in internal medicine pediatrics in the 90s, it hasn't changed. When I go back and visit, some of the same patients, same fax machines being used to communicate, paper forms still being filled out. I got my own cardiac study done at Stanford a year ago. I got my results in a DVD. I don't even own a DVD player anymore. So we're sometimes stuck in our old landscapes of the past, right? And despite that, we have all these evolving exponential technologies that are getting faster, cheaper, and better, and more exciting. And it's not about AI or 3D printing or nanotech. It's about where these technologies come together, where they converge, where they super converge, that gives us the opportunity in medtech and beyond to sort of invent the future, right? All these technologies didn't exist when I was a Stanford medical student in the 1990s, right? From LLMs to mixed reality to digital therapeutics. And so I challenge you to be thinking about not what's possible in 2025, but what's going to be possible in the next 5 and 10 years is going to make the last 10 years look slow. And of course, many of you who are both investors and technologists, I have my own venture fund. We do seed stage health tech and digital health. It's a very exciting time to be an investor and an entrepreneur to leverage these technologies to make an impact faster. So as you think about the future, there's also the opportunity to move again from the sick care side to the healthcare side. We're in Silicon Valley. A lot of people want to live forever, the whole longevity movement, a little bit of hype and snake oil in there. But I think we all want to optimize our health span and start to shrink our sick span. So there's opportunities to move upstream from the sick care market. And the big picture there is to move from our current practice of sick care, intermittent episodic data, usually collected in the four walls of the clinic or the ER, to a future that's much, and that leads to our reactive mindset. We wait for the heart attack, the stroke, the cancer to show up at late stage, to a future that's much more continuous, where the data is personalized, proactive, can happen anywhere, anytime, and can lead to better outcomes, arguably at better costs as well. So that's kind of this synergy of where all this is going. And so all of us here, whether we're investors or entrepreneurs, want to solve for pain points. Some of you know Stanford Biodesign. I was part of the first couple of years of that program. My pain point as a bone marrow transplant fellow was harvesting bone marrow with hundreds of punctures and taking an hour in the operating room. So I actually ended up developing a medical device in the MedTech space called the marrow miner. It's a minimally invasive way, FDA cleared now, to harvest bone marrow. So any of you are in the stem cell regenerative medicine world, it's often when you're a clinician, you see the pain point, you solve for it. So I think you all know the biodesign process. So how do we look at what's next in the next decade? What we're going to hear today from startups and beyond is hoping building that next decade. Well, the future of medicine is not just about 12 innovations or 1,200 innovations. I got to write this article for Nat Geo a few years ago. It's how we bring them together. And also realizing it's not about the technology, it's often about understanding the systems and the incentives, because especially in the United States, we don't practice evidence-based medicine, we practice reimbursement-based medicine, and the reimbursement's pretty much on the sick care side of the equation. So you have to pay attention to who's getting paid and how it happens. And I've been sort of living at that interface for a while. I chaired medicine at Singularity University. I built a program called Exponential Medicine, now called NextMed Health, which has some similar overlaps to here in that you need to bring people together from all these different worlds, from the Eric Topol's to the Paul Stamets on psychedelics to folks doing chatbots and drones and beyond. We have our own technology awards, which Paul is helpful to running for the last decade, called the Medis. Some of the winners of that are here overlapping as well. But again, the magic is to make sure you get out of your old silos and connect the dots between different fields. And I love this quote shared by the head of NHS Innovation, who joins us every year. The difficulty lies not in the new ideas, but in escaping from the old ones. So many of us have new ideas, but many of our colleagues in health systems are stuck in the old mindset. So come join us at NextMed Health in the future. Okay, so what are a few things that are moving quickly in this new age? Genomics, right? Sequencing your own genome has dropped at the twice-threaded Moore's law from $10,000 a decade ago to about $80 on the way to $10 genomes, which means you can start to understand your own genomics and potentially pick and figure out what genes are best for, what drugs are best for you, or what device or what app is best for you based on your omics. We're starting to understand every disease at its molecular level. It's not just type 2 diabetes, it's a one distinct subtype that responds better to medications, devices, drugs, and therapeutics. We're starting to see that we cannot just read DNA. We're obviously in the era of writing DNA, synthetic biology. The CRISPR era has moved very, very quickly to the point where one of my fellow Aspen fellows climbed Mount Kilimanjaro last fall. Not a big deal for him, but he brought his friend Jimmy, who had sickle cell disease until 3 years ago when he was cured by a CRISPR-based therapy, was now able to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I got to tell that story to Jennifer Doudna, the Nobel laureate. So incredible synergies and things are moving quickly. And I think in the future, we're going to have personalized mRNA vaccines and CRISPR-based therapies, which will help prevent and cure diseases like cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, before you even have them show up clinically. Now, genomics is one piece of the future, but you also need to be thinking about the proteome, which is getting faster and cheaper, the exposome, the sociome, the microbiome. All these omics are getting faster and cheaper and better to integrate. The proteome can predict Parkinson's 7 years before symptoms. The immunome is becoming measurable. So you don't need to think about any one ohm. You want to think about this idea now of multimodal health. It's mashing up all these different data layers to sort of build that, what's often called the digital twin, right? It could be the digital twin for the heart, for the brain, for the body, for a particular disease population. In my world of oncology, right, we need digital twins to help make sense of all the amazing molecular data, almost a AI-empowered virtual twin tumor boards. Those are starting to evolve. So lots of opportunity to bring these things together. So clearly, this world's moving quickly, sometimes exponentially. You guys all know Moore's law, the power of computing, which is why my Apple Watch has more power than a Cray supercomputer, and why all these technologies some of us grew up with in the analog age have now become digitized and disappeared into our glasses, or soon into our Apple Vision Pros and our contact lenses. So the world's dissolving and becoming virtualized, which means we can meet these agents, these virtual avatars, almost anywhere, anytime. We know they're not real, but we interact with them as if they are. You can design them to any format you like, to look like your mother or your psychiatrist. I can turn myself into an avatar.
Well, hello there. This is Virtual Daniel. On behalf of avatars everywhere, it's wonderful to be with you in the San Jose to explore what's now, near, and next in MedTech. Now, I'm going to rest my neural circuitry. So I'm handing it back to real Daniel while I go wine tasting.
Right, so that's the art of the possible, right? So when you bring these things together, Google Glass was 13 years ago, and these technologies still are a bit kludgy. They're going to start dissolving into our Meta glasses, for example, and give us the opportunity as clinicians and as patients to see the world in new ways, right? To be guided step by step through a procedure. So when you guys are developing a medtech technology, you need the training. It can be synthesized with the operating procedure, or guiding again in the operating room or the clinic, right? It can be used for education, right? Your kids can put on a virtual reality T-shirt, like my son Leo is here, and understand what's happening in his physiology. So great for education, right? It's also great to take lessons from other fields. I've been a pilot since college. I served as a flight surgeon in the Air National Guard with fighter squadrons. We use the heads-up display as a virtual reality component. It tells us where the bad guy is, where the wingman is. It gives us a warning if we're about to hit a mountain. It talks to us. So what if we leverage that kind of augmented reality for behavior change, right? You see your breakfast a new way, one way, you see it another way through your Meta glasses or contact lenses, and you get a little nudge. Right, so that's where these things are going. And speaking of flying, I used to fly, I learned to fly in a 1970 Cessna 150 with paper maps and round dials. Now my airplane's the same size, but it has a glass cockpit, GPS, real-time understanding of weather, traffic, other information, synthesizing in real time. We call it situational awareness in the military world. And that doesn't need to just come to the fighter pilot, but to all of us as clinicians and healthcare innovators and as patients. Then there's virtual reality. It's really fun to put grandma on a roller coaster, and that's a fun tool. But VR is becoming a therapeutic and an educational platform. VR can be used to treat pain patients when they go into cold environments. It can be used for physical therapy to make it engaging and gamified and virtualized. It can be used, of course, for education. If you build a new technology, you can educate your patients and clinicians about how to use it. Or instead of see one, do one, teach one, we're moving to see one, simulate, simulate, simulate. So this idea of how we're going to train the future clinician is blending into this new realm. And even the operating room is almost getting a black box. And so the below average surgeon, and 50% of surgeons are below average, can be upskilled to be a highly, the top percentile. And of course, that's blending with robotics, which are not quite automatic yet, but are going to become more and more automized. So look for the next decade to see how medicine, health, and surgery moves from kind of like regular driving to driver assist to full assist in almost every realm. What about diagnostics, something we all need to hopefully bring the right therapies to our patients? That's moving from the analog world, analog scales, to a company called ShapeScale. It doesn't just do your weight, it can do your shape and your muscle mass and your fat mass. That might be part of our future physical exam, right? We're now, my friend Dave Albert, a grazing medtech innovator, developed the AliveCore device 12 years ago. Now you can see ads for it on CNN or buy a EKG on your phone-sized credit card version of an EKG, powered by AI, FDA cleared, right? You don't even need to have a device to measure your heart anymore. The camera can be used as a modality to measure heart rate, blood pressure, O2 sat, even blood sugar and blood pressure. So this idea of invisibles, getting outside of the wearable space. And the phone, again, has lots of opportunity in the medtech world, from doing diagnosis of ear infections to using voice as a biomarker to predict neurologic disease or cardiac disease, or the sound of your cough is a croup, COVID, or a cold, or even voice biomarkers have been shown to predict high blood sugar and screen for diabetes and hypertension. So whole new modalities of collecting data. And so what's most important about these new diagnostic tools is we can diagnose our bad behaviors, which drive our bad conditions and hopefully nudge us in the right direction. The Fitbit only came out 15, 16 years ago. Most of us have some form of wearable. These wearables and otherables can kind of manage or measure almost every element of our physiology behavior. They're mostly consumer, but they're moving to medical, right? And many of these examples, and I expect we'll see in the next couple of years, I've got an example on my wrist that does real-time blood pressure. Soon some will do real-time blood sugar, and our Apple Watches and Fitbits might be doing that continuously in the next few years. How do you plan for that for real-time continuous monitoring? There's also ingestibles you can swallow. Some of you know the company ND Addicts. I got to swallow one of these big pills. Take a look.
Breakfast of Champions.
Breakfast of Champions. I won't run through the whole video, but swallow this integrated pill with so much exponential technology built in, and I could then steer this little pill bot around my stomach using a game controller while I'm talking to a GI doctor across the planet. So here I am.
New York, live from my stomach. We have the pillbot from the
Pillbot. So that's just an example of these things coming together. And there's patchables, and there's earables, and there's other patches now that can basically replace an intensive care unit level of data, streaming that 24/7 for $2 a day. So that's going to help us move from hospital to home. There's insidables, technologies going underneath the skin to measure physiology, peripheral vascular disease, and beyond. There's ringables. You know about these technologies. They can be helpful with your sleep, or they can start to measure and predict pregnancy, or they can now be used to predict if you have COVID. So bottom line, our physical exams of the future will be leveraging our wearable data continuously in new modalities. And I'm going to skip through vital signs and exoskeletons as where that's going. All right. What about diagnostics and imaging, right? Now you can look at your brain in new formats. You can get full body scans for a couple of $1,000s. And the scanners are getting more mobile and portable and lower cost. And you should plan for the next decade to be able to go into your corner CVS and Walgreens and get a full body scan read by the AI radiologist. Or now leverage new forms of brain interaction. I've invested in a company that does TMS. They took these cumbersome technologies, shrunk it down to a handheld version of transmagnetic stimulation, leveraging neoplastogens with 1 day of therapy instead of 30 can now cure depression over 6 months in 1 day. So new modalities coming together. So how does this bridge into the world of medtech? Particularly for diagnostics, these tools can now fit in our pockets, or the bag of a community health worker in rural Rwanda, or the portable echo stethoscope that has AI and can listen to heart sounds and do a better job than most cardiologists, or the portable ultrasound device that's guided by AI can democratize diagnostics anywhere on the planet. All these new tools bring us new formats, from home-based pap smears to democratizing apps and diagnostics for rural India, for example. Many parts of the world don't have access to clinicians. We've been building a company with Andrew Ng called Jivi, which already has a synthesized AI doctor and health coach rolling out to over, I think, 1 million downloads in the last year. So this is coming to reality faster than you might think. I've got 2 minutes left. So AI, of course, is part of this. No secret there. AI can guide your procedures, whether it's endoscopy or pathology. AI was hyped for a while, but now it's becoming real. It can predict problems before they occur, like medical errors. And it's blending with physical, right? AI meets robotics. These are becoming more and more autonomous to replace your pharmacist or be social, because we can interact with these robots in places where you don't have enough caregivers. So again, watch that space. We need to design them smartly so they aren't dystopian, but they're going to become important parts of our care, particularly where there's not enough healthcare workers in many modalities. So how do we bridge this new realm of digital health, medtech, digital therapeutics? There's a lot out there already. I'm just going to skip to the chase. How do we make sense of what's already there, right? These can already give you early warning. They can communicate to you in new forms. It's challenging to make sense of what's already out there. So one resource I've been building is a platform called Digital.Health. You can go to Digital.Health today and find over 5,000 solutions. You can learn about a diagnostic platform like AliveCore, for example. Look at its evidence base, prescribe it, put it in your own digital formulary. Same thing for diabetes. Almost any condition, any medtech element, you can put it in the database for free. It's an open platform and a resource. Here's a whole bunch of medtech solutions in there that, again, allow clinicians, patients to find and match the tools that they need. Now, all these tools and technologies create massive amounts of data. Data is not the answer. We need to go to new data, turn it into actionable information, not just published in the New England Journal of Medicine, but bring that to the bedside and the website faster. There's a huge need and gap to move these technologies and bring them in new crowdsourced ways. Just like our driving. We can't imagine driving without Google Maps or Waze. We're building these Google Maps and Waze for healthcare to bring us pharma, medtech, in faster, more crowdsourced manners going forward. So I'm out of time, so I'm just going to close with the fact that therapy is changing. I'm working on some ways to 3D print not just devices, but 3D print pills, but I'm out of time. I think this super convergence gives us opportunity to take new knowledge, new data, and then create new solutions like 3D printed pills that match you and can be printed and modified at your corner pharmacy or eventually at home as kind of the synthesis of technologies to meet unmet needs. So in conclusion, it's an exciting time for medtech. AI, digital, all these forms are blending together. I encourage you not to be thinking about any one technology, but how they converge and how they mash up, and not where the technologies are today in 2025, which used to be the future, but where the puck is going to be in 2030 and 2035. Be like Wayne Gretzky, skate where the puck is going to be as an investor or as a technologist. And if we have that mindset, we can go from now to next, and we can take not incremental steps, but exponential ones. The future is already here, especially in Silicon Valley. It's just not evenly distributed. Many of you are building that future, so now's the time not to predict the future of health and medtech, but to build it collaboratively together in this amazing community. So with that, thanks for your time and attention. Let's build the future together. Thanks. All right.